I, 28F, thought my wedding day was the happiest day of my life. The room was filled with flowers and soft music. My dress felt like a cloud. Liam, 30M, my new husband, looked at me with so much love in his eyes. Everything was perfect. We had been together for 3 years, and this day was the start of our forever. His family had welcomed me from the start. His parents, Eleanor and Richard, treated me like a daughter. His sister Chloe had become one of my closest friends. We shopped together, talked about everything, and she was my maid of honor. She stood beside me, smiling as I said my vows. I felt so lucky to be joining such a warm and loving family. The reception was a blur of happy faces, toasts, and dancing. I danced with my dad. I danced with Richard, my new father-in-law. Liam spun me around the dance floor until I was dizzy and breathless with joy. Every time I looked at him, my heart felt full. He was handsome, kind, and funny. He was everything I had ever wanted. I believed we had no secrets. I believed our love was built on a foundation of pure trust. I was wrong about that. I was wrong about everything. Later in the evening, I was making my way back from the restroom when someone gently touched my arm. It was Liam's cousin, Mark. He was usually quiet and kept to himself at family gatherings. I had always found him a little awkward, but nice enough. Tonight, he looked different. His face was pale, and he kept glancing over his shoulder as if he was afraid of being seen. I smiled at him, expecting him to offer congratulations. He did not smile back. "Can I talk to you for a second?" he asked. His voice was low and urgent. I nodded, a little confused. "Of course, Mark. Is everything okay?" He led me to a small alcove near the coat check, away from the music and the crowd. The festive sounds felt distant. He wrung his hands together, his eyes darting around the hallway. He looked truly terrified, and a small knot of unease began to form in my stomach. What could possibly be so serious on a night like this? I thought maybe he had too much to drink or was having some kind of personal crisis. I was prepared to offer a listening ear. "I know this is not the time," he started, his words coming out in a rush. "I really, really debated this, but I can't let you go on without knowing. It is not right." "Knowing what, Mark?" I asked, my voice still light. "What is going on?" He took a deep breath and finally looked me straight in the eye. The look in his eyes was one of deep pity, and my heart began to beat a little faster. "It is about Liam," he said. My smile faltered. "Liam? Is he okay?" "He is fine," Mark said quickly. "It is not that. It is something he is hiding from you. Something they are all hiding from you." The knot in my stomach tightened. "What are you talking about?" "Hiding what?" Mark swallowed hard. He looked like he was about to be sick. He leaned in closer, and his next words were a whisper that cut through all the joy and happiness of the day. "He is not telling you about his child." The words did not make sense. They floated in the air between us, meaningless and absurd. His child? Liam did not have a child. I would know. We had talked about our futures, about having a family one day. He had never once mentioned a child from a past relationship. It was impossible. It was a cruel, drunken joke. I stared at him, my mind refusing to process the information. I tried to laugh, but it came out as a choked sound. "Mark, that is not funny," I said, my voice sharp. "You have had too much to drink. You should not say things like that." "I am not drunk," he insisted, his eyes pleading with me to believe him. "I am sorry. I truly am. But you deserve to know. He has a son. His name is Leo. He is 4 years old." A name. A specific age. The details made it harder to dismiss, but I couldn't accept it. I wouldn't. This was my wedding day. Liam loved me. His family loved me. They would not lie to me about something so monumental. Mark had to be mistaken, or he was being malicious. Liam had mentioned that Mark could be jealous of his success. Maybe this was his way of lashing out. "You are wrong," I said firmly, taking a step back. "I think you should go home, Mark. You are ruining my wedding." Tears welled in his eyes. "I am sorry," he whispered again. "I just thought you should know the truth." He turned and walked away, disappearing back into the crowd, leaving me standing alone in the quiet hallway. My hands were shaking. I leaned against the wall, my beautiful white dress suddenly feeling heavy and suffocating. His child, Leo, 4 years old. The words echoed in my head, a horrible, discordant note in the symphony of my perfect day. I told myself it was a lie, a nasty, bitter lie from a jealous cousin. I had to believe that. I pushed the words out of my mind, locked them in a box, and decided not to let them spoil a single second more of my happiness. I took a deep, steadying breath and pasted a bright smile back on my face. I walked back into the reception hall, the warm lights and music washing over me. I saw Liam across the room, laughing with his groomsmen. He looked so happy, so carefree. He caught my eye and his face lit up with a brilliant smile that made my heart ache. How could a man with a secret that big look so genuinely joyful? It had to be a lie. I made my way toward him, navigating through clusters of dancing guests. I was going to go to my husband, kiss him, and forget all about Mark and his poisonous words. I was almost there when I saw her. Chloe. She was standing near Liam, talking to one of her friends. As I approached, Liam's gaze shifted from me to his sister. He must have given her some kind of signal because her head whipped around to look at him. And then I saw it. I saw the look on his sister's face. It was not a look of happiness. It was not the beaming smile of a proud sister and maid of honor. It was a flash of pure, unadulterated panic. Her eyes widened, her smile vanished, and she looked at Liam with a frantic, questioning expression. It lasted only for a second. She saw me watching, and her face instantly smoothed back into a pleasant mask. But I had seen it. It was a look of shared guilt, a look of complicity. In that single, fleeting moment, I knew. Mark was not lying. The box in my mind where I had locked his words shattered into a million pieces. Liam had a child, and Chloe knew. My best friend, the woman who stood beside me at the altar, knew that my entire marriage was starting with the biggest lie imaginable. A cold dread washed over me, so intense it made me feel sick. I looked from Chloe's fake smile to Liam's approaching grin, and for the first time, I saw him not as my loving husband, but as a complete and total stranger. The rest of the night was a performance. I smiled, I laughed, I danced. I let Liam hold me close, his arms around my waist, and I felt nothing but ice in my veins. Every loving word he whispered in my ear felt like another lie. Every cheer from our friends and family felt like a mockery. I looked around the room at his parents, Eleanor and Richard, who were beaming with pride. Did they know too? Were they all in on it? Was I the only person in this entire celebration who did not know the most fundamental truth about the man I had just promised to spend my life with? The thought was nauseating. The warmth and love I had felt from his family now seemed sinister, a carefully constructed facade to keep me in the dark. Chloe caught my eye again from across the dance floor. She raised her champagne glass in a toast to me, her smile wide and brilliant. It was the most convincing performance of all. Later, as Liam and I were saying our goodbyes, getting ready to leave for our hotel, Chloe pulled me into a tight hug. "I am so happy for you two," she whispered in my ear. "He loves you so much. You are going to have the most amazing life together." Her words were like venom. I wanted to pull away, to scream at her, to ask her how she could stand there and lie to my face. But I just hugged her back, my body stiff. "Thank you, Chloe," I said, my voice sounding hollow and distant even to my own ears. "That means so much to me." In the car on the way to the hotel, Liam held my hand. "Are you okay, honey?" he asked, his voice full of concern. "You seem a little quiet." I forced a smile. "Just tired," I said. It was a long day, a perfect day. He squeezed my hand. The most perfect, he agreed, leaning over to kiss my cheek. His touch made my skin crawl. The man I had married just hours ago was gone. In his place was a liar, and I was trapped in a beautiful hotel suite with him on what was supposed to be the best night of my life. The hotel room was stunning. Rose petals were scattered on the bed, and a bottle of champagne was chilling in an ice bucket. It was a scene straight out of a romance movie, but it felt like a prison. As I took off my veil, my hands trembled. I could feel Liam's eyes on me. I turned to face him, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew I had to say something. I could not just pretend that Mark's words and Chloe's expression had not happened. Liam, I began, my voice barely a whisper. Is there anything you need to tell me? He looked at me, his brow furrowed in confusion. What do you mean? He asked, walking toward me. He took my hands in his. His hands were so warm. All I need to tell you is that I love you more than anything in the world, Mrs. Davies. He said my new name, his name, and it felt like a brand. I pulled my hands away gently. I am serious, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Is there anything from your past that I should know about? Anything at all? His easy smile returned, but it did not quite reach his eyes this time. My past is the past. All that matters is our future, he said, trying to pull me into an embrace. I stood my ground. The defensive wall was already going up. I could feel it. Mark said something to me tonight, I said, watching his face carefully. His expression changed instantly. The smile vanished, replaced by a flicker of anger. Mark? He scoffed. You cannot listen to a word that guy says. He is a bitter, jealous idiot. What did he say to you? The speed of his denial was alarming. He did not even ask what it was about. He just immediately went to discrediting the source. It was a classic deflection tactic. I hesitated. A part of me, a desperate, foolish part, wanted to believe him. I wanted him to tell me Mark was a liar and have it be the truth. I wanted to wake up from this nightmare and be back in my perfect day. But the look on Chloe's face was burned into my memory. That was real. He said some things that were upsetting, I said vaguely, testing the waters. Like what? Liam pressed, his voice hard. Tell me what he said. I will go over to his house right now and sort him out. He was trying to make it about him defending my honor, turning it into a conflict between him and Mark instead of him and me. It was clever, but it was not going to work. Still, I was not ready for the full confrontation. I was exhausted, emotionally shattered, and I did not have any real proof beyond a whispered comment and a panicked glance. If I accused him now, he would deny it, and they would all close ranks around him. They would paint me as the hysterical, untrusting wife. They would gaslight me into believing I was the crazy one. I backed down. It does not matter, I said, turning away to unzip my dress. I was just being silly. It is late. I am just tired from all the excitement. I felt his relief like a wave. It was a tangible thing in the room. He came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. Of course you are tired, he said, his voice soft and soothing again. Let's forget about my idiot cousin and just enjoy our first night as husband and wife. He kissed my shoulder, and I had to fight every instinct in my body that screamed at me to flinch, to run, to get away from him. I let him help me with my dress. I went through the motions of our wedding night, my mind a million miles away. I felt like I was watching a movie of someone else's life. As I lay in bed beside him later, listening to his steady breathing as he slept, I felt a profound and terrifying loneliness. I was married to a man I did not know at all. And his sister, my supposed friend, was the gatekeeper of his secrets. The honeymoon was supposed to be in Hawaii. 2 weeks of sun, sand, and romance. Now the thought of it filled me with dread. 2 weeks alone with him, pretending everything was perfect, felt like an impossible task. But I had to go. I had to play the part of the happy bride while I figured out what to do next. My plan was no longer about saving my marriage. My plan was about finding the truth. The flight to Maui was long and quiet. Liam seemed to think my subdued mood was just post-wedding exhaustion. He was attentive and sweet, buying me magazines and snacks, pointing out cloud shapes from the window like we were children. Every kind gesture felt like a twist of the knife. Was this how he operated? By being so charming and loving that no one would ever suspect the lies underneath? Or was he genuinely clueless about how deep his betrayal cut? I watched him as he dozed, his head resting on the little airplane pillow. He looked so peaceful, so innocent. It was hard to reconcile this image with the man who was hiding a child from me. Our resort was beautiful, a paradise of lush gardens and turquoise water. Our suite had a balcony overlooking the ocean. In another life, this would have been the most romantic trip imaginable. Now, it just felt like a gilded cage. For the first few days, I tried. I really did. I tried to push the suspicion away and enjoy the moment. We went snorkeling. We had cocktails by the pool. We had fancy dinners under the stars. I smiled for the pictures he took. I let him hold my hand as we walked along the beach. But there was a wall of glass between us. I could see him, I could hear him, but I could not feel him. The connection we had was gone, replaced by a gnawing suspicion that colored every interaction. He was on his phone a lot, more than usual. He would text while I was in the shower or angle the screen away from me when I walked into the room. He started taking evening walks by himself along the beach, always with his phone pressed to his ear. When he came back, he would say he was just calling his parents or Chloe to let them know how the trip was going. "You should talk to them too," he would say cheerfully. "I am sure they would love to hear from you." It was another clever move, making it seem normal and open. One afternoon while he was in the shower, I felt a desperate urge to look at his phone. It was lying on the nightstand. I had never done anything like that before. We had always respected each other's privacy, but we were so far beyond that now. My hand trembled as I reached for it. It was locked, of course. I tried his birthday. Nothing. I tried our anniversary date. Nothing. Then I tried a combination of numbers that I remembered was his old high school locker combination, something he had told me about in a story once. It clicked open. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I felt like a criminal, but I could not stop. I went straight to his messages. I scrolled through, looking for anything suspicious. There were texts from his mom, his friends, a long gushing thread from Chloe about how beautiful the wedding was. Then I saw it. A thread with no name, just a number. The last message was from him, sent just last night while I was sleeping. "Just checking in. Hope everything is okay. We'll call tomorrow." There was no reply. I scrolled up. The conversation was sparse, mostly him checking in, asking simple questions. "How are you? Is everything good? Need anything?" The replies were short. "We are fine." "Everything is good." "No." The person on the other end was not chatty. I checked his call log. He had called that number every single day we had been on our honeymoon. The calls were usually late at night, after I had gone to sleep. I heard the water in the shower turn off. I quickly closed the apps, locked the phone, and placed it back on the nightstand exactly as it had been. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my own phone. I pretended to be reading an article when he came out of the bathroom, a towel wrapped around his waist. "What are you reading about?" he asked, drying his hair. "Oh, just some article about local restaurants," I lied, my voice sounding surprisingly calm. That night, I could not sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of the waves crashing outside. The unnamed number was burned into my brain. Who was it? Was it the mother of his child? The thought made me feel physically ill. The betrayal was not just that he had a child. It was the ongoing deception, the daily calls, the secret life he was living right beside me. The next day, I knew what I had to do. While Liam was out for a run, I logged into our shared phone account online. It was something we had set up for convenience, and he probably forgot I had the password. I found the call history. There it was. The same number over and over again. I typed the number into a search engine on my phone. My heart pounded as I waited for the results. A few seconds later, a name popped up. Jessica Bell. A public records search linked the number to an address in a town about an hour away from where Liam and I lived. Jessica. The name was unfamiliar. I searched my memory, trying to place it. Had Liam ever mentioned a Jessica? No. But then I remembered something else. A conversation with Chloe, months before the wedding. We were having lunch, talking about past relationships. I had asked her about Liam's ex-girlfriends. "Oh, there was no one serious before you," she had said, waving her hand dismissively. "Just a few flings. There was this one girl, Jessica, who got a little obsessed. Kind of a crazy ex situation. He had to block her. It was a whole drama. But that was ages ago, long before he met you." At the time, I had accepted her story without question. She had made it sound so trivial. A footnote in his dating history. Now her words took on a new, sinister meaning. A crazy ex. Was that the story they had all agreed on? Was that how they dismissed the mother of his child? As some unstable woman from his past? It was a neat, tidy way to erase her, to erase the child, to make sure no one ever asked any follow-up questions. The pieces were clicking into place, forming a picture that was uglier than I could have ever imagined. Chloe was not just a gatekeeper. She was the architect of the lie. She had planted the seed in my mind months ago, preemptively discrediting this woman, Jessica, so that if her name ever came up, I would immediately dismiss it. It was calculated. It was cruel. And it meant this deception had been going on for a long, long time. That evening, we had dinner reservations at a fancy restaurant on the cliffs overlooking the ocean. The sunset was spectacular, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Liam was in a great mood. He ordered a bottle of expensive wine and raised his glass. "To us," he said, smiling. "To the most beautiful wife in the world. I love you." I clinked my glass against his, the sound echoing in the sudden silence that had fallen over me. I looked at him, at this man who could sit here and say those words to me while hiding so much. The anger that had been simmering beneath the surface for days began to boil. I decided to test him. I took a sip of wine and then looked at him with a casual expression. "You know, it is so funny," I began, my voice light and conversational. "I was thinking today about that story Chloe once told me, about your ex-girlfriend, Jessica." I watched him. It was like watching a statue. He did not move a muscle. His smile froze on his face. His eyes, however, showed a flicker of the same panic I had seen in Chloe's. It was there and gone in an instant. "Jessica?" he said, his voice a little too tight. "I barely remember her. That was a long time ago. Chloe said she was a bit crazy," I continued, pushing a piece of food around on my plate. "That you had to block her. It sounded so dramatic." He took a long swallow of his wine. "Yeah, well, Chloe always exaggerates," he said, forcing a laugh. "It was nothing. We dated for like a month. It did not work out. End of story." I looked up at him. That is not what Chloe said. She made it sound like a much bigger deal. "She said this Jessica was obsessed with you for a long time." His jaw tightened. "Look, can we not talk about this?" he said, his tone shifting from casual to annoyed. "We are on our honeymoon. I do not want to talk about some random girl I dated years ago. It is not important. It is just interesting how you and Chloe have different versions of the story," I said softly. He put his fork down with a clatter. "What are you trying to say?" he asked, his eyes narrow. "Are you accusing me of something? Because I am getting really tired of this. First Mark, now this. It is like you are looking for a problem." There it was again. The deflection. the accusation that I was the one creating the issue. He was turning my valid questions into an attack on our relationship. He was trying to make me feel guilty for even asking. It was classic gaslighting, and for the first time, I saw the manipulation for exactly what it was. I did not have enough proof yet to drop the bomb. All I had were inconsistencies and a phone number. If I pushed harder now, he would just shut down completely. I had to be smarter. I had to play his game. I sighed and gave him a soft, apologetic smile. "You are right," I said. "I am sorry. I do not know why I brought it up. I guess all the wedding stress has me a little on edge. Let's just forget it. I am sorry." His relief was palpable. The tension immediately drained from his shoulders. He reached across the table and took my hand. "It is okay," he said, his charming smile returning. "I get it. It has been a whirlwind. Let's just enjoy this. No more talk about the past, okay? Only our future." "Okay," I agreed. But in my head, I made a promise to myself. I was not just going to find out about the past. I was going to find out everything. And then, there would be no future for us. The rest of the honeymoon was a painful charade. I played the loving wife, and he played the devoted husband. We smiled, we laughed, we held hands. But every night I would lie awake next to him, my mind racing, plotting my next move. The anger and hurt were slowly solidifying into something else. Something cold and hard. A plan. When we got home, the first thing I did was unpack. Liam wanted to order takeout and relax, but I needed to feel some sense of normalcy, of control. As I put our clothes away, I felt a strange detachment, like I was a visitor in my own home. The life we had built together, the photos on the wall, the furniture we had picked out, it all felt like a lie. That week, I told Liam I was going to be busy catching up on work and with my friends. He seemed fine with it. Probably relieved that I was back to my old routine and had dropped my suspicions. It gave me the freedom I needed. I started my real investigation. The first step was to learn more about Jessica Bell. I needed more than a name and an address. I spent hours online, searching for any trace of her. It was difficult. She did not seem to have much of a public social media presence. But then I found it. An old, barely used account on a photo-sharing site. Most of the pictures were of landscapes and flowers. But as I scrolled back several years, I found a few pictures of people. And in one group photo from about 5 years ago, I saw her. A woman with kind eyes and a warm smile standing next to a younger-looking Liam. They were at a barbecue, and his arm was around her. They looked happy. So, she was not just some crazy ex he barely knew. They had a real relationship. The real breakthrough came when I tried a different approach. I started searching for her family members. I found her mother's social media page, which was public. Her mother posted frequently about her wonderful daughter and her beautiful grandson. My breath caught in my throat. I scrolled through the pictures, my heart pounding. And there he was. A little boy with big brown eyes and a familiar dimple in his chin when he smiled. Liam's dimple. The posts called him Leo. He was celebrating his 4th birthday in one of the pictures. The timeline was perfect. The resemblance was undeniable. Seeing his face was like a punch to the gut. This was not an abstract concept anymore. He was real. A real little boy who was my husband's son. A boy I knew nothing about. A boy who was being kept a secret from me. I looked at the pictures of him playing in a park, opening birthday presents, hugging his grandmother. He looked happy. He looked loved. But his father was on a honeymoon with another woman, pretending he did not exist. The cruelty of it all was staggering. The betrayal was no longer just about Liam. It was about his entire family. Chloe, who had actively lied and manipulated. His parents, Eleanor and Richard, who surely must have known. Did they see pictures of their grandson? Did they send him birthday cards in secret? The thought of them smiling at our wedding, blessing our marriage, knowing this, made me sick. They had not just allowed Liam to lie to me, they had participated in it. They had chosen to protect his secret rather than to respect me as a person, as the woman joining their family. My hurt began to transform. The deep, aching sadness started to burn away, leaving behind a cold, sharp anger. This was not a mistake. This was a conspiracy. They had all looked me in the eye and lied, day after day for years. They had let me invest my time, my love, my entire future in a relationship built on a foundation of deceit. They had made a fool out of me. I decided right then that I was not just going to confront them. Confrontation was not enough. They would just deny, deflect, and try to manage the situation. They would try to make it my problem, my emotional overreaction. No, I needed more than that. I needed leverage. I needed undeniable proof that would leave them with no room to wiggle, no space to lie. I needed to dismantle their perfect family image from the inside out. They had humiliated me in secret. I was going to expose them in the open. My first call was to Mark. I found his number in the wedding contact list. He answered on the second ring, his voice nervous. "Hello? Mark, it is me," I said, keeping my voice calm and even. There was a pause. "Oh, hi, is everything okay?" he asked, sounding wary. "Not really," I said. "You were right. About Liam. About the child." He let out a long, heavy sigh. "I am so sorry," he said. "I really am. I hated doing that to you on your wedding day, but I could not live with myself if I did not." "I am not angry at you, Mark," I told him sincerely. "I am grateful. You were the only one who was honest with me. But I need your help. I need to understand how this happened. How everyone could keep this from me." He was hesitant. "I do not want to get in the middle of it," he said. "My aunt and uncle, they would kill me." "They already lied to me," I said, my voice hardening. "They all did. Chloe, Liam, all of them. I am not looking to cause trouble for you, Mark. I am looking for the truth. You said I deserved to know. Well, I deserve to know all of it. Why did they do it? Who knows? How long has this been going on?" I could hear him thinking on the other end of the line. I knew I was asking a lot. I was asking him to betray his family. But they had betrayed me first. "It is Chloe," he finally said, his voice low. "It is all Chloe. She runs the show." After Jessica got pregnant, Liam freaked out. He was young. He was just starting his career. He did not want to be a father. Chloe stepped in. She handled it. "Handled it?" I repeated. "What does that mean?" "She convinced Jessica to keep it quiet," Mark explained. "She told her that if she made a fuss, Liam would lose his job, and she would get nothing. But if she stayed silent, they would make sure she and the baby were taken care of financially. She set up a payment plan. She told Liam it was the only way to protect his future. And she made everyone in the family swear to secrecy, especially after you came along. You were his fresh start." Chloe's words. A fresh start. I was a clean slate for him to build a new life on top of the old one he had buried. I was not a partner. I was a solution to a problem. "So his parents know everything?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. "They know," Mark confirmed. "They go along with whatever Chloe says. She has always had them wrapped around her little finger. They think she is the smart one, the one who knows how to handle things. They probably convinced themselves it was for the best." The confirmation was devastating, but it was also clarifying. This was not a simple lie of omission from a scared man. This was a calculated, long-term deception, orchestrated by his sister and enabled by his entire family. "Mark, I need proof," I said. "Anything you have. Texts, emails, anything that shows they all knew and they planned this." He was quiet for a long time. "Let me see what I can find," he said finally. "I cannot promise anything, but I will look." I thanked him and hung up. I felt a strange sense of calm. The emotional storm had passed, and now there was only a clear, cold path forward. While I waited to hear from Mark, I decided to take the biggest risk of all. I was going to contact Jessica. I could not use my own name. They would have warned her about me. So I created a new anonymous social media profile. I used a generic name and a picture of a sunset as my profile image. I sent her a message request. My heart was pounding as I typed out the words. I had to be careful. I could not come on too strong or I would scare her away. "Hi, Jessica," I wrote. "My name is Jane. I am an old acquaintance of the Davies family. I have some concerns, and I was hoping you might be willing to speak with me privately. I promise my intentions are good." I sent the message and then stared at the screen, waiting. Hours passed. Then a day. I started to think she would not reply. Maybe she had been so thoroughly intimidated by Chloe that she would not speak to anyone. But then, 2 days later, a notification popped up. She had accepted my request and sent a message back. "I do not know any Jane," she wrote. "What is this about?" Her reply was cautious, guarded. I could not blame her. I took a deep breath and typed my response. "I know this will sound strange, but I know about Leo. And I know that Liam is his father. I am not trying to cause you any trouble. I just want to understand the truth." The 3 little dots indicating she was typing appeared and then disappeared several times. I could feel her hesitation, her fear. Finally, a new message came through. "Who are you?" This was the moment of truth. I could lie, but it felt wrong. She had been lied to enough. I decided to be honest. "I am Liam's wife," I wrote. The pause this time was much longer. I thought maybe I had made a huge mistake. Maybe she would block me, or worse, tell Chloe that I had contacted her. But then, she replied. "He got married?" she wrote. The words were heavy with a sadness I could feel even through the screen. "They did not tell me he was getting married." "Yes," I replied. "A few weeks ago. They did not tell me about you or Leo either." That seemed to break the dam. A flood of messages came through. She told me everything. She and Liam had dated for nearly a year. It was serious. She thought they were going to get married. Then she got pregnant and everything changed. Liam panicked. He wanted her to terminate the pregnancy. When she refused, he told her he was done. That he wanted nothing to do with her or the baby. Then Chloe got involved. Jessica described Chloe's visit, how she had shown up at her apartment, all smiles and fake concern. She told Jessica that Liam was just scared, that he was not a bad person. She presented her with a deal. They would provide financial support every month, enough for her to live comfortably and raise her son. They would pay for his education. In return, she had to agree to never list Liam on the birth certificate and never tell anyone he was the father. Chloe had framed it as a way to protect Leo from a messy public battle and to ensure he had a stable, financially secure upbringing. She had even threatened that if Jessica went to the courts, the Davies family would use their money and influence to drag her through the mud and paint her as an unfit mother. Jessica was young, scared, and alone. She had agreed. "She made it sound like she was helping me," Jessica wrote. "She said it was the best thing for Leo. She said Liam would come around eventually, but we had to give him space. She said telling his new girlfriend would just ruin everything for everyone and jeopardize the support." It was a masterclass in manipulation. Chloe had controlled the entire situation, isolating both me and Jessica, feeding us different lies to keep us apart and keep the secret safe. The payments came every month, but not from Liam. They came from a joint bank account that was in Liam's and Chloe's names. Liam rarely saw his son, maybe a few times a year, for an hour or two in a park. Chloe always arranged it. He was a visitor in his own child's life. I felt a surge of empathy for Jessica. She was not a crazy ex. She was a victim, just like me. They had used her love for her child to control her. "Jessica," I wrote, "I am so sorry this happened to you. None of this is your fault. They manipulated you." "I know that now," she replied. For a long time, I held on to the hope that Liam would step up, but he never did. He just let his sister handle his responsibilities. I am going to expose them, I told her. All of them. But I need your help. Do you have any proof? Anything that shows Liam is the father? She was quiet for a moment. Then she sent me a file. It was a PDF document. I opened it. It was a copy of a paternity test dated 4 years ago. It stated with 99.9% certainty that Liam Davies was the father of Leo Bell. I had it done right after he was born, she explained. Just in case. I never used it. Chloe does not know it exists. It was the smoking gun. The undeniable proof. Thank you, Jessica, I wrote, my hands trembling. This is everything. What are you going to do? She asked. I am going to make sure they can never lie to anyone ever again, I replied. A few days later, Mark came through. He sent me a folder of screenshots. They were from an old family group chat. The conversations were sickening. There were messages from Chloe updating the family on the Jessica situation. There were messages from their mother, Eleanor, saying things like, "It is for the best. Liam deserves to be happy." There was even a message from Liam himself after he had proposed to me, saying, "Thanks for handling everything, Chloe. I could not have done this without you." It was all there, in black and white. The conspiracy, the cover-up, the complete disregard for me, for Jessica, and for an innocent little boy. I now had the paternity test, the screenshots of the family chat, and I had Jessica's testimony. I had everything I needed. I spent the next few days planning. I could not just confront Liam alone. He would lie. He would call Chloe and they would come up with a new story. No, this had to be public. It had to be in front of the people whose opinions they valued most. The family. Their perfect, respectable family. I called my mother-in-law, Eleanor. I put on my sweetest, most cheerful voice. "Hi, Eleanor. How are you?" "Oh, hello, dear," she said, her voice warm and friendly. It made my stomach turn. "We are wonderful. We were just saying how much we miss you too. How was the honeymoon?" "It was amazing," I lied. "So relaxing. Listen, Liam and I were thinking we would love to have everyone over for dinner this Sunday. Just a little post-honeymoon celebration. You, Richard, and Chloe." "Oh, what a lovely idea," she gushed. "Of course we will be there. We would not miss it for the world." "Great," I said. "We will see you Sunday at 7. I hung up the phone and took a deep breath. The stage was set. Sunday was 3 days away. For the next 3 days, I lived with my husband, pretending to be the happy newlywed. I cooked his favorite meals. I asked about his day at work. I kissed him goodbye in the morning. It was the hardest thing I have ever had to do. I felt like an actress in a play, counting down the minutes until the final scene. Liam, for his part, was completely oblivious. He was relaxed and happy, believing that the storm had passed and our life was back on track. He had no idea he was walking into an ambush. On Sunday evening, I prepared for dinner. I made a roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans, a perfect, wholesome family meal. I set the table with our wedding china. Everything had to be perfect. The contrast would make the coming explosion even more dramatic. Liam came into the kitchen and wrapped his arms around me from behind. "Smells amazing in here," he said, kissing my neck. "You are the perfect wife, you know that?" I stiffened for a second before forcing myself to relax into his embrace. "I try," I said with a tight smile. His family arrived right at 7. Chloe brought a bottle of expensive wine. Eleanor and Richard brought a bouquet of flowers for me. They were all smiles and hugs. "You look so rested and happy, dear," Eleanor said, squeezing my hand. "Married life suits you," Richard added with a wink. Chloe hugged me tightly. "I am so glad you guys are back. I missed my best friend," she said. The hypocrisy was so thick I could barely breathe. I just smiled and thanked them, playing my part. I led them into the dining room. Dinner started pleasantly enough. They asked all about our trip to Hawaii. Liam and I told them anecdotes about our snorkeling trip and the funny tour guide we had. I showed them pictures on my phone. They all laughed and smiled and commented on how happy we looked. We were the perfect couple, with the perfect family. I poured the wine. I served the food. I listened to Chloe talk about a problem at her work. I listened to Richard complain about the stock market. I watched Liam interact with them, laughing and joking, completely at ease. He was in his element, surrounded by the people who had helped him build and maintain his world of lies. As we finished the main course, I could feel my heart begin to pound. It was almost time. I stood up to clear the plates. "I have dessert," I said. "But first I have a question. For Liam." The light-hearted chatter stopped. 4 pairs of eyes turned to me. I could see a flicker of confusion on their faces. Liam looked at me, a small, questioning smile on his lips. "A question? Okay. Shoot." I walked back to my chair but did not sit down. I stood at the head of the table looking at each of them. "It is something that has been bothering me since the wedding," I said, my voice calm and steady. "And I think it is best if we talk about it openly, as a family." Chloe shifted in her seat. A small frown appeared on her face. She knew my tone. This was not a lighthearted question. "Liam," I said, looking directly at my husband, "I need you to be completely honest with me, in front of your parents and your sister. Who is Leo?" Silence. Absolute deafening silence. Liam's face went pale. The color drained from his cheeks, leaving him looking ashen under the warm lights of the dining room. His smile evaporated. He just stared at me, his mouth slightly open as if he could not form words. His eyes darted to Chloe, a desperate, panicked plea for help. It was Chloe who broke the silence. She let out a short, sharp laugh that sounded completely unnatural. "Leo?" she said, her voice a little too high. "I have no idea. Is that someone from your work, honey?" She was looking at me, but the question was for Liam, a lifeline she was throwing him. I did not take my eyes off my husband. "No," I said softly. "It is not someone from my work. I will ask you again, Liam. Who is Leo?" Liam swallowed hard. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. He looked like a cornered animal. I do not know what you are talking about," he stammered. His father, Richard, looked confused. "What is this all about?" he asked, looking from me to his son. "Is this some kind of joke?" "No, Richard," I said, turning my gaze to him. "It is not a joke." Chloe jumped in again, her voice taking on an edge of irritation. "Okay, this is ridiculous. Who have you been talking to? Is this about Mark again? I told you he is a compulsive liar. He has always been jealous of Liam. You cannot believe a word he says." She was trying to take control, to steer the narrative back to the script they had all rehearsed. This was my moment. The one I had been waiting for. I slowly turned my head and looked directly at Chloe. Her confident, dismissive expression began to falter under my cold, steady gaze. "No, Chloe," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "This is not about Mark. This is about you." I reached into the pocket of my apron and pulled out my phone. I also had a small stack of papers I had printed out earlier, held together with a paperclip. I placed them on the table. "You are a very good liar, Chloe," I continued, my voice never rising. "You are all very good liars, but the lies stop tonight." I tapped my phone screen and slid it across the table toward Richard. "This is a screenshot from a family group chat," I explained, "the one where you all discussed the Jessica situation and how to make sure I never found out. There is a particularly nice message from you, Eleanor, saying it is for the best, because Liam deserves to be happy." Eleanor gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Richard picked up the phone, his face growing grim as he read. Next, I pushed the printed papers toward Liam. "And this, Liam," I said, "is a copy of a paternity test. It says there is a 99.9% chance that you are the father of a little boy named Leo Bell. He just turned 4. Liam stared at the paper as if it were a snake. He did not touch it. Finally, I looked back at Chloe. Her face was a mask of fury and shock. "And you, Chloe," I said, my voice dripping with ice. "You are the architect of it all. You convinced a scared young woman to keep her child a secret. You threatened her. You set up a secret bank account to send her hush money. An account you share with my husband. You lied to my face for years, pretending to be my friend, my sister, all to protect him." The room was silent again. The only sound was Richard's heavy breathing as he stared at the phone. Eleanor was openly weeping now, quiet, choked sobs. Liam just sat there, completely broken, his head in his hands. But Chloe was not broken. She was furious. She stood up so quickly her chair scraped loudly against the floor. "How dare you?" she shrieked, her voice shaking with rage. "You come into our family and you try to tear it apart with your snooping and your accusations." "Accusations?" I said, raising an eyebrow. "Chloe, these are not accusations. This is the truth. A truth you worked very hard to hide." "We did it to protect him," she screamed, pointing a trembling finger at Liam. "We did it to protect our family. He made a mistake, a stupid mistake, and we fixed it. You were supposed to be his fresh start, his clean slate. You were not supposed to dig into the past and ruin everything." Her confession hung in the air, raw and undeniable. She had admitted it. In her anger, she had admitted everything. Richard finally looked up from the phone. He looked at his daughter, and his expression was one of pure, undiluted disgust. "You did this?" he said, his voice a low growl. "You orchestrated this entire charade?" "I did what I had to do for my brother," Chloe shot back, her chest heaving. "You lied to us," Richard said, his voice growing louder. "You lied to everyone. You made this entire family complicit in a shameful secret." He then turned his furious gaze on Liam. "And you," he said, his voice dripping with disappointment. "You let her. You let your sister run your life and hide your own child. I have never been more ashamed of you than I am in this moment." Liam flinched as if he had been struck. He looked up, his eyes red and full of tears. "I was going to tell her," he whispered, looking at me. "I was. I never found the right time." "The right time?" I asked, my voice devoid of any emotion. "Was it before or after we said our vows? Was it before or after we bought a house together? Was it before or after we started trying to have a family of our own? When, Liam? When was the right time to tell me my entire life with you was a lie?" He had no answer. He just dropped his head back into his hands and sobbed. I looked around the table at the wreckage of their perfect family. Eleanor was crying uncontrollably. Richard looked like he had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Chloe was staring at me with pure hatred in her eyes, and my husband was a weeping, pathetic mess. There was no satisfaction in their pain. There was only a hollow, empty feeling. I had the truth. And the truth had destroyed everything. I walked back to my purse, which I had left on a side table. I pulled out a business card and placed it on the dining table. "I have already spoken to a lawyer," I announced to the silent room. "His name is on that card. His office will be in touch with yours, Liam. I am filing for divorce." I did not stop there. "I also think you should all know," I added, looking from Liam to Chloe, "that Jessica is no longer willing to be silent. She has the paternity test, and she has records of your secret payments. She will be going to court to establish paternity officially and to arrange for a formal child support and custody agreement. So you see, Chloe, you did not fix anything. You just delayed the inevitable." Chloe's face went white. The thought of this secret becoming a public, legal record was clearly her worst nightmare. Her reputation, the family's reputation, was everything to her. I turned and walked out of the dining room. I went upstairs to the bedroom we had shared, and I pulled out the suitcase I had packed that afternoon. I did not look back. I walked out the front door, leaving the ruins of my marriage behind me, and I did not cry. Not a single tear. The time for tears was over. The days that followed were a blur of logistics. I stayed with my parents, who were shocked and horrified but completely supportive. My lawyer was efficient and ruthless. Liam did not fight the divorce. He signed whatever was put in front of him. He tried to call me several times a day. I never answered. He left long, rambling voicemails filled with apologies, excuses, and pleas for a second chance. He blamed Chloe. He blamed his parents. He blamed his own fear. He never once just took full responsibility for his own choices. One evening, I listened to one of the messages. "I love you," he cried into the phone. "I never stopped loving you. Chloe said it was for the best. She said you would leave me if you knew. I was so scared of losing you that I lost you anyway. Please, just talk to me. We can fix this." I deleted the message without a second thought. There was nothing to fix. You cannot fix something that was never real in the first place. Chloe also tried to contact me. Her approach was different. First came the angry, abusive texts. She called me a vindictive gold digger. She said I had destroyed her family for no reason. She threatened to ruin my reputation. When I did not respond, her tone shifted. She sent messages that were cloyingly sweet, full of fake apologies. "I know I handled things badly," one text read. "I was just trying to protect my little brother. I always thought of you as a sister. Can we please talk?" I blocked her number. The most surprising call came from Richard, my soon-to-be ex-father-in-law. He sounded tired and sad. "I am calling to apologize," he said, his voice heavy. "On behalf of myself and my wife. We were fools. We let Chloe convince us that we were doing the right thing, that we were protecting our son. We did not stop to think about what we were doing to you. We failed you. And for that, I am truly sorry." "Why did you do it, Richard?" I asked, my voice flat. "Why did you all lie?" He sighed. "Fear," he said, "and pride." Chloe was always so convincing, so sure of herself. She painted a picture of scandal and ruin if the truth came out. We were worried about the family name, about Liam's career. We were selfish. There is no excuse. I hope one day you can find it in your heart to forgive us, not for our sake, but for yours. His apology felt sincere, but it was too little, too late. "I appreciate the call, Richard," I said. "Goodbye." I also got a call from Mark. He sounded worried. "I heard what happened," he said. "Are you okay?" "I am okay, Mark," I told him. "Really, I am better than okay. I am free." "The family is a mess," he said. "Aunt Eleanor is barely speaking to Chloe. Uncle Richard is furious with both her and Liam. They are all at each other's throats. You really blew it all up." "They built the bomb, Mark," I said. "I just lit the fuse." "Well," he said, "for what it is worth, I am glad you did. It was a long time coming." The divorce was finalized in a few months. I got the house. Liam did not want it. He said it had too many memories. He moved into a small apartment across town. The last I heard, he was trying to build a relationship with his son, Leo. Jessica had, as promised, taken him to court. Everything was now official and on the record. Liam had court-ordered visitation rights and was paying a significant amount in child support. Chloe's perfect, quiet arrangement had been replaced by a messy, public reality. I heard through the grapevine that Chloe's relationship with her parents was permanently damaged. They no longer saw her as the smart, capable daughter who could fix everything. They saw her as the manipulative architect of their family's public humiliation. She had lost her power over them, and over her brother. A few weeks after I had moved back into the house by myself, I got a small, unexpected package in the mail. There was no return address. Inside was a small, hand-painted card. On the front was a picture of a smiling sun. I opened it. The writing inside was a child's scrawl, helped by an adult hand. It just said, "Thank you." Underneath, in neat cursive, Jessica had written a short note. "He deserves to know his father, and I deserve not to live in the shadows. You gave us both that. I will never forget it." I placed the card on my mantelpiece. It was a reminder that my actions had not just been about revenge, they had been about liberation. For me, for Jessica, and for a little boy named Leo. I spent the next year healing. I sold the house that was filled with lies and bought a small condo in a new part of the city. I focused on my work, reconnected with old friends, and learned how to be on my own again. I learned to trust my own instincts. One day, I was in a coffee shop and I saw him. Liam. He was with Leo. They were sitting at a small table, sharing a pastry. Leo was laughing at something his father had said. Liam looked up and saw me. The recognition in his eyes was instant, followed by a wave of shame and regret. He looked older, tired. The easy charm was gone. I just gave him a small, neutral nod and turned to leave. I did not feel anger or sadness. I felt nothing at all. He was just a stranger, a man from a life I no longer lived. As I walked out of the coffee shop and into the bright sunshine, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. They had tried to build a perfect life on a foundation of lies, with me as one of the cornerstones. But they underestimated me. They thought I was just another piece to be managed. They never imagined I would be the one to pull it all down. They had finally learned that some secrets come with a price, and it was a price they would be paying for the rest of their lives. I, on the other hand, had already paid my share and was walking away free and clear. The best revenge was not the explosion I had caused, but the quiet, happy life I was now building for myself, far away from their wreckage. They were trapped in the past, dealing with the consequences of their choices, while my future was a clean, blank page, waiting for me to write a better story. And I would.